Cricbuzz Chatter, Adam Collins and Michael Vaughan at the end of an electrifying day of Test cricket here at Headingley, Australia. All out for 263, which does not tell the full story at all. A blistering 118 ball, 118 from Mitchell Marsh. That middle session, Australia dominated. Then Mark Wood intervened, taking 5 wickets on his return to the side. England lose 2 wickets straight away. They're 3 for 68 at the close of play, so still behind in the game. But boy, we've seen some cricket today, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been saying on the radio, I feel drained. Yeah. You know, when you're commentating in this series, you've got to be on it every single ball. You know, on the television, particularly the highlight show I usually work on, you generally have about half an hour and you might say 2 words. You've got to be on it every ball. Something's happening. Brilliant cricket. It's kind of ebbed and flowed. Australia had the worst of the first session. It was a good decision by Ben Stokes. England were excellent. Mark Wood, incredible. And then that counter punch in the afternoon, that drop catch of Joe Root, Mitchell Marsh. I think I've just heard Mitchell Marsh say in the press it's the first time he's ever been dropped in Test match cricket. He's probably earned a bit of fortune. He says also it's kind of someone who's got a Test match 100 on his holidays. He said he's been on his holidays for the last few weeks and he's now had to play a Test match. That middle session was one of the best counter punches I've seen. You know, he just came out and played with great clarity, power. All his stroke play, 6s down the ground, they look with so much control. And that counter punch from Australia, and then obviously the wicket right at the back end of that middle session. Then England bounced back brilliantly after tea. I have to say, at Lords on day one when they bowled, England weren't at the races. They just weren't quite switched on. Apart from the catching today, I thought the bowling was exceptional. Yeah. I thought the Aussie bowling towards the end was excellent, but England's bowling today was right on the money. If they'd have been backed up with the fielders, I reckon they should have bowled the Aussies out for about 160.
Yeah, it felt that way, didn't it? So they come back from 2. They get Marsh out on the stroke of tea, so it's 240 for 5, if memory serves me correctly. They end up taking 6 for 23, so they've rolled through Australia. 4 wickets on the trot from Wood, who was just electrifying. He had an average speed today of nearly 92 miles an hour, which is the quickest average spell or average innings compilation since Brett Lee played here in 2005. It puts it in some sort of context for you. But just having the ability to draw upon this guy for the 3rd test, I don't think we'll ever really know whether he was fit to play in tests 1 and 2. We don't know the full story, but what an asset and how it changes the game having an extremely fast bowler, not just a fast bowler.
Yeah, I mean, you speak to any batters that, generally batters don't like mystery spin. They'll say they do, but they don't. And also pace. It doesn't matter if you're batting down the bottom, even at the top of the order. You saw the ball that he got Khawaja. And Khawaja has been the rock. He's played with so much clarity, played with so much time throughout the series. Well, Mark Wood does him for pace. Yes, it was late swing, but he does him for pace. He does Cummins for pace later on. He hits Carey on the head, brutal blow, and then gets him out next ball. Yeah. So I wonder what the scars he's done in this innings going into the next innings. That's what intrigues me, because quick bowling, it can offer scars going forward. Batters don't want to be facing it. And it's how Mark Wood, and this is why I look at England's batting now. The batters have to do the job to give Wood rest. If Mark Wood's back out there tomorrow afternoon having to bowl, I'm sorry, you can't expect someone to continuously bowl at 90 miles an hour when he's had one night's kip. Yeah. They've got to give him more rest. So it's now down to the batters. And I actually thought the Bazball way went into kind of sleep in the last half an hour. Yeah. England played for stumps. Johnny and Joe knew that they had to play for stumps. And the batters tomorrow have got to think, yes, you've got to look to score and you've got to look to dominate if you can, but you're also having the back of your mind, Ollie Robinson's off the pitch. I don't know what he's going to be like, but it has to be a problem going forward in the Test match. England have got to give Mark Wood, Chris Woakes, who have not been playing cricket, as much rest in the first innings as possible. That's why it's so important from an England perspective that they go beyond the Australian score and get a decent lead.
Yeah, so both those men came back today and were influential. Woakes as well. Broad picks up Warner in the first over of the Test match, doesn't even rate it a mention. So much happened today. We're not going to fit it into our video, I promise you. We'll try. But the very fact that they got into Australia early on, Smith in his 100 Test makes 20-odd, gets out from an edge that he reviews. I don't know how he reviewed that. He must have known he hit it anyway. That's a conversation for another day. Between times, Labuschagne is caught at first slip by Joe Root. And then it's that partnership. Travis Head had to fight really hard today. They set the leg side trap for him, 3 out straight away for the hook shot, including a fly slip. He had to keep playing the shot, because what choice is there? But he found a way to do it with a degree of control. I'm not saying it was pretty, but somehow he gets through it. And he actually let Mitchell Marsh do the running. And boy, how sweetly does that bloke hit the ball? Have you seen the celebration video of Jeff Marsh and Sean Marsh in Perth? Find it, Google it. It's absolutely brilliant. But it shows how much it means to a guy who he's not a junior player anymore, back in the side for the first time in 4 years, barely played red ball cricket, gets a chance due to a hamstring strain from Cameron Green, and didn't he make it count?
Oh, I think he's he's a great cricketer. I think he's got just a little bit of something about him across all the different formats. For whatever reason, I don't feel the Australian public give him enough credit. There's something about Mitchell Marsh that, he gets laughed at times. I don't think he's had necessarily the right support from Australia fans. I love the guy. I just think he's a great character. I think he brings a bit of humour. You need those kind of guys, particularly on tour. He takes the mick out of himself. But I'll tell you what he has done. He saved Australia today, because without his innings, they would have been bowled out cheaply. England potentially would have been up to that score. I don't know how many England wickets would have fallen, because Australia would have bowled more overs. But, sometimes you see innings and you think, this Australian side just seem to find a way. They struggled at Edgbaston for a long time, but someone will find a way. Khawaja just stepping, Nathan Lyon with his bowling, obviously Cummins towards the back end of that game. At Lords, as I said, Steve Smith in the first innings. You can just see that this Australian team, even when the whole collective is not operating brilliantly, one individual, and the one individual today was Mitchell Marsh, that's just got Australia to a competitive score. I mean, there's plenty there. I think it's been an absolutely brilliant cricket wicket.
Yep.
The first 2 wickets, great excitement, great entertainment, but I don't think it was because of the pitches. I think it's because of the way that the teams played. I think this is, if you could kind of dig up a pitch and say that's the kind of wicket that Test match cricket needs, because I'm sure over days 3 and 4, if we get to that stage, I'm sure we will, we'll see a bit of spin, and with the spin there'll be a bit of bounce, which will be great for the game. But what pace bowlers and seam bowlers, this one carry. So if they find the outside edge, you want to see the ball flying to the slip corner, and that's exactly what this pitch has produced today.
It's a great point. The pitch meant we did have the slips in the action, which they barely have been through Birmingham, which was a terrible pitch, and Lords, which was better, but nowhere near as good as this week, or this day today, rather, where it was brilliant from the first ball to the last. When Australia got their chance to bowl, it was Cummins off the top picking up. Duckett, will come back to that in a hot spot in a sec, and getting the second wicket, but then Brook in at 3. Now, that, from the moment he walked in, didn't feel right. I think he faced 11 balls, played and missed at 1, and then dabbles at 1 in the corridor, caught in the cordon. It just didn't seem like he was in the right space to play a role like that there. And then we know how talented he is, but batting 3 is bloody hard. You know that.
Yeah, I feel for him, actually, because, I think he's just starting his test. Brilliant. He had 400s, 450s. He's a destructive player. We've seen him play some really good shots in this series already. At Edgbaston, I thought he played great at times. In the first innings at Lords, he was playing nicely until he started trying to baseball bat. But, he gets a good ball in the second innings. And suddenly, a few days later, you're batting number 3 against, Pat Cummins is the best. He's an unbelievable bowler. With that new ball, he will always challenge you on both sides of the bat. He'll challenge your inside edge as a right-hander and also your outside edge. So I think it's a tall order. I would say to England in the second innings, and they will have to chase something. I'm not too sure how many, but they will have to chase something. Don't be scared of tinkering. Don't be scared of realising that Harry didn't look quite suited at number 3, and maybe you can push Joe up to number 3. He pretty much opened the batting tonight. He was in that soon. So just maybe don't be worried about tinkering and just manoeuvring that order, because I think Harry Brook's a really dangerous player. But I think if you said to Australia, do you like Harry Brook batting number 3? They'd say, yep, thank you very much. For that reason, I wouldn't be scared of England saying in the second innings, maybe Harry goes down the order.
And Marsh also chipped in with the ball, picking up the outside edge of Crawley late in the day, nicely taken into cordon as well. Okay, let's go into the hot spot. In the hot spot, you touched on it before, the way in which Ben Duckett got out and was taken so magnificently from Alex Carey. By the way, the crowd was barely a factor until Carey walked in today. It was a bit of a non-event, but anyway, that's a conversation for another day. I think Carey's catch, in contrast to the way Bairstow has dropped a couple, and a really important one too, Travis Head down the leg side, as straightforward as they get by that metric. Tinkering, England, Bairstow keeping, that's not working either. It feels like there's an easy adjustment there. They could have made it before this test. They haven't. Do you think they will at some point?
No, I don't think they will. I think they'll continue with Johnny. It's costing them. I was absolutely behind Johnny as wicket-keeper before the series, but, sometimes you have to accept that, there may be a better option out there. The Aussies have had 3 chances, have taken 3 chances. It's barely obvious for everyone to see that the chances that England have been missing in this series have cost them hugely. And you could argue that they're 2-0 down because of those chances. And people will say, it's the game. Of course, you are going to miss chances. Absolutely, that is the game. But when the contrast is so different, I think Australia have missed 7 in this series. England, I'm talking catches that should be taken is 14, so double the amount. And there's another 5 chances that are half chances that you could guarantee Cameron Green will probably rip up as well. So catching, extras, things that you can really control and work on. England just haven't quite got that right. And at the minute, they're 2-0 down in the series. And today, because of their catching, Australia are at parity in terms of level in this game today. You know, England, from what I saw today, should be at the head of the game. But we arrive on day 2. I believe the sun's going to shine. I know it's Leeds and it doesn't happen often, but I believe the sun's going to shine. And that might help it be a good day for batting. That's why the first innings batting for England is going to be absolutely crucial, because if they don't get up to somewhere near, and particularly if they give Australia a 50-60 run lead, that'll be criminal from the position that they've been in today.
All right, Vaughnie, before we go, let's hit fast forward. Vaughnie, fast forward, looking at tomorrow, the sun is meant to shine. There'll be rain later in the test match, we reckon. But with overheads, and you've played so much cricket at this ground here in Headingley, swing was a massive factor today. When the sun comes out, do you still expect it to be?
Well, I remember in 2019 when the Aussies were bowled out for 170 odd.
Yep.
And the next day we arrived and the sun was shining, and everyone said, "Oh, it's a perfect day for batting." I said, "Absolutely." England were bowled out for what, 60 odd?
67,
so,
yeah.
I think tomorrow the pitch will go through nicely. I think the pace and the bounce in this surface will always offer something for the seamers. Clearly, when the sun shines, it just feels better as a batting unit. If the sun's shining tomorrow, England have to bat the day. You know, yes, they've got to look to score, but you know, I saw in Ben Duckett tonight, that aggressive nature against the bouncing ball. It offered a wicket. Harry just defending a little bit wide of the off stump, offers a wicket. Zach Crawley gets a decent ball, but again, if you're being ultra critical, can he leave that ball? Possibly, but it's just not the way that they're playing. England have played in the last year and a half in such an expansive way that I think Australia will probably just keep dangling the carrot and almost expect England to make mistakes. I'm not saying they can't go a whole day without making a mistake. That's near on impossible when you're playing quite risky cricket, but they've got to nullify those mistakes, because batting in the first innings for me is where England can win this test match. If they get beyond Australia, and more importantly, they rest Mark Wood. Mark Wood can't be going out there tomorrow afternoon to bowl. If he's out there tomorrow afternoon bowling, I think Australia are going to win the game.
Yeah, he's a precious resource, Mark Wood. We saw it on show today. What a brilliant day's test cricket. Great to share it with you on Cricbuzz Chatter. Do it again tomorrow. Good night.